As a fa-
Oh,
as a
wow.
father, I probably sometimes provided more support and didn't allow enough challenge for people to actually grow. So challenges are going to be one of the things I've learned in my life, but for sure in the last year, is that challenges are opportunities to learn, and
Hmm.
frankly, no growth, no progress, no success happens without change. And
Yep.
so I appreciate you guys being on. I'm sure we'll have some other people trickling in. We've got approaching 20 people that have RSVP'd, and I put out a Facebook Live and stuff. So I think there are some people that said they were shifting some things around to try and make it, but we're here, and so that's the most important thing. So, kind of the question, one of the questions I laid out was. And we've talked about in the with our podcast warriors and some of our speakers and stuff, is what is it in the last year that we have learned or are having challenges with as we now look forward, and hopefully as warriors everybody here is looking forward. I actually have this slide up with my background. I'm not having Randy introduce me today, so I'll have the background up there for a few minutes, and then I'm going to switch the Zoom background, and I will share my screen, and we'll go through two kind of major segments. There's about 12 slides that I'm going to go through, and some are really focused on some of the learnings, and some are focused on some of the infrastructure changes and things that we're now implementing. And this is serious. This isn't like, hey, I'm thinking about it. Done a lot of research, and my assessment is where we're at as a place where we can, not only as a group, not as only as Richardson Plano networkers, but we can take a lot of things forward. So anyway, so I guess my question on the table is, what have you learned and or uh, found challenging in this new environment that we are now in, and it's not going away, when it comes to doing business like we're doing it here on Zoom, on trying to get people's attention on social sites, Facebook, trying to make use of things, the technology that already exists, as well as capabilities that have emerged, and then some things that I think are emerging that we're going to take advantage of, that kind of begin to consolidate a lot of that stuff. So, and I'll talk more about that when we get more into the formal part. But this is formal today. We are recording it. It will be up on our Facebook group. So, Vic, since you're mobile and you're sitting in a parking lot, anything you need to unmute, but anything that you've learned or found challenging in your unique world of marriage ministry, and also your own personal situations and things like that.
Yeah, it was interesting in putting together this event to learn some of the challenges of technology in terms of how to connect and collaborate to a private audience that is paid versus a generalized Facebook Live from our Unity Marriage Ministry Facebook page, and navigating those waters and figuring out how to connect and collaborate in terms of um, how to keep it exclusive and keep it private was certainly a lesson in growth, in personal growth. And I'm glad to say that we figured all of that out. And we're looking forward to having our event tonight where we're going to be live streaming to people all over the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great piece of, and Vic, you and I have talked. We've talked about uh, Vic was one of the first people to introduce me to Clubhouse, which is one of the technologies that I mentioned in the list of things that are emerging. And I'm more interested not necessarily in the technology when it comes to Clubhouse, but just the learnings that I've received from that and the power of what we're doing. We'll talk more about that when I get into the discussion. We've also talked about nonprofits, associations, and Be Connected, and again we'll be talking about that more. But
I
so
was going to
yeah.
bring that point up as well, saying that I'm interested in learning the nuances of the new Be Connected private chats and uh, how to navigate those, because that's going to be an instrumental tool for our marriage ministry moving forward. The fact that it has that top tier webinar platform that we can utilize for 1,000+ Facebook lives and YouTube live synchronization and private chat groups versus public chat groups, and
Yeah.
trying to figure all of that out is going to be definitely something that I'm looking forward to learning more about.
Right. And so just to be clear, so not to overwhelm anybody here, because there's a lot of various folks. I want to say there's people on various levels of the journey. And so today we're going to focus on the questions and then some of the initial answers and also kind of the direction. And this, again, I'm very confident right now in terms of what it is that we're going to do. I have a very solid vision of what I'm doing as well as Richardson Plano Networkers. But that being said, I really, really, really have some dots that I want to connect, and I want to get some people's input into what they're wrestling with, what they're doing. So thank you for sharing that, Vic. By the way, for those that have just joined us, this is similar to our normal 30-second go around, except that we're really going to be talking specifically, and we're talking specifically, the questions on the table are: what things have you found better and learned in this environment that we're now in and moving into, so that we can thrive as we are emerging from the zombie apocalypse, but also what kinds of challenges have you experienced? So what kind of challenges, what kind of things, what are you working with? Because as a community, as a group, we're going to be very proactive going forward with not only getting you in the conversation, but in some cases leading conversations about the things that you care about. I mean, I'm looking at Patricia with jewelry. I'm looking at Ricky with music. I'm looking at Randy with growth and business consulting, and Dick Buck with branding, and David with branding and marketing, and Vic with marriage ministry and relationship. I mean, everybody here has something to offer, and so I really want to understand one of the other questions. So I'm just going to randomly, David, you were here early on. I think you beat me on. So you got any insights from there, from what we were just talking about in your world, in the world of branding?
In the world of branding, what I'm trying to do, I guess, is to probably educate people about how important their brand is. That's the educational piece, but also the second, on top of that, is to try to gain more customers, so I can keep my business alive.
Sure.
Just because
Okay.
my background is basically Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, it's pretty noisy
Oh,
in
my
your
breaking up.
background. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
David, it sounds like you've got a speaker on and your microphone's on, and they're talking to each other. So we're getting a double.
Okay, let me try. I don't know. This is fine. I'm not very accustomed to Zoom like this, so bear with me. The bottom line is I'm trying to, as I mentioned, trying to educate people about branding, but also trying to, acquire more customers so the business can thrive at the same
Okay,
time.
David,
Since
David, I'm sorry. I know you're doing your best, but the noise is a little distracting, and so I basically got that you're looking to get your message out, and also be able to translate that message into your audience to get more customers, and frankly, you are not by yourself. So again, you can. I'll maybe give you a chance to talk, but that's great input. I'm gonna keep moving a little bit, so we get. I want everybody that invested the time to be here early and be here at 11:30 and actually read the memo to have an opportunity to kind of weigh in with anything that you've come to the meeting with on your heart or on your mind or relative to talking about, thriving beyond this. Let's see. Randy, I'm going to go to you, even though I know you don't like to go necessarily early on, but you're always here early. You have a different perspective on things, and I really want to hear from you've been offering a lot of services for free. You're trying to serve your community, those kinds of things. You're an amazing resource to Richardson Plano networkers, and frankly, anybody that chooses to engage you. What are you finding, or what have you learned, and what are you learning, and what are you looking at going forward?
Well, David, you hit my topic spot on. We've known each other for almost 7 years now. When I was a consultant charging, goodly sums of money for people, and when I was also an executive turning around companies, I didn't seem to have any trouble getting gigs nor getting money. Then I decided that God wanted me to offer my services to help other people. And so you and I talked, and I announced that my services will be free. And all I heard was crickets. And it was funny. It was almost like the kiss of death. Do people say to themselves, well, if it's free, it's probably really not worth anything? I often wonder, should I go back and charge? I really do want to make my services available to help people, to work with all kinds. Like I said, the biggest project that I've had over the last year is a gentleman that I didn't even know before. I'm helping him write a book. The book has gone to press. He's coming over next week with my copy, autographed by him. So I know it works, and I know it was a labor of love from me to him, and his writing of the book was a labor of love from him to others. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. I've mentioned it sort of jokingly at meetings occasionally, and nobody has said, no, you really need to charge.
Yeah, and by the way, for you and for me and for a number of people in this community, I think when we go forward, we talk about kind of the vision here and stuff of what I've got up my sleeve, or got, that we're really going to move forward on. I think it's going to make that barrier a little easier to overcome, and you'll understand more.
Okay, great.
What we do. But I appreciate you sharing that, because I share your frustration. One of the reasons I put my background up here on the slide is because I have, and this isn't about me, but let me just get this off the table, because I want to get that background slide off. But I just want to say, for those that are watching this video or on this Zoom, even though we've had one-to-ones, I know that when you have one-to-ones, you don't necessarily share everything about your background. Sometimes people pick things up. Randy and I have crossed paths or have similar kind of backgrounds. He's been on my podcast, those kinds of things. So he knows a little more than most. Ricky knows more than most. But a lot of you guys, I mean, I've had 45 years of business transformation experience in all industries, in all sizes of companies, including in ministry and those kinds of things, even nonprofits, working and consulting with nonprofits. I'm the same way. If you schedule a one-to-one with me, you will get that value, some portion of that experience and that value in the conversation if you need it. If I'm listening and hearing and trying to serve. And that's what Randy brings to the table. That's what Dick Buck brings to the table. That's what Don Sprague brings to the table. Everyone here that has a little more history, and that translates into old. But the thing is, we have a message that we want to get out. And we have, I retired in 2000. You say, you retired? No, you don't look like a retired person because you're busier than anybody you know. Randy would attest to that. And when we talked about his retirement and his strategy and those kinds of things, I will tell you that retiring the way we thought about it in the past is a death sentence. You don't want to do that. It's a 6-year lifespan. That's on average. We don't want that. So I've been retired for 16 years. The key is, what is your life purpose? And the whole thing is, everybody that really sticks with Richardson Plano Networkers and that will continue to stick with us and in our global expanded impact going forward are going to be people that are looking for impact first. Okay, they're looking to make a difference first. Not saying our having level is less than somebody else. We all need, like David said, we all need clients. We all need people to hear our message. And we all want to ultimately have an impact. And if money flows, that's a beautiful thing. I went from getting a huge paycheck, 7-digit income, to deciding that I was going to make an impact first and let the money follow.
Right.
That's not, to me, that's retirement, because now I'm working with the people that come into my path. So as I had a chance to really contemplate going forward out of the pandemic and thriving beyond this and what that means to me, it's very similar to Randy. Let me shut up here for a second, and I'm gonna ask Patricia Ann Cole, if you would. You've been very faithful and involved in our Friday talks. You're committed to learning. Your industry, you're a massive and very valuable resource in the space that you are an expert in, which is jewelry and so on and so forth. What is it that you're finding that you've found beneficial to what we're doing right now, and what kind of challenges moving out of this are you experiencing? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just asking a question.
Well, the hardest problem I'm having is trying to integrate with people again personally, because that's what my biggest situation was working with individuals. They would come in, bring their jewelry in, they'd say, I don't know what it's worth. And then we get to talking, and I'm an educator by degree as a teacher. And so I love to educate my clients. And this has been a very hard challenge for me to not be able to do that. When you're standing on the porch and 6 feet away, you can't show somebody in the microscope what it looks like.
Right.
But at this time period, I'm still having trouble getting back with individuals to let them know that I'm still available. They're not wearing jewelry. They're not going out. They're not going to benefits. And some of them say, well, I just locked it up in the safety deposit box. So my business has been like almost zero. Fortunately, we don't have to live on my income. I'm past actual retirement age, but I'm like you and Randy. I'm probably going to keep going till I fall face forward. So it's a very difficult challenge to get my word out there. And one thing I wanted to point out to you, remember a couple of years ago, I was involved with about 3 or 4 women's organizations. All of those have fallen to the wayside, which is absolutely a shame because that's my primary target. Most of the guys don't take the information home that I give them in the meeting. So it's a challenge to find new avenues since these others have completely dried up. And that I'm talking about 5 or 6 of these
Right.
groups. And that's why I say it's so important to have someone like you and Randy that are so substantial to keep these groups going, because when the going gets bad, a lot of these people say, okay, I'm gone. So
Yeah.
that's where I am.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. That was really, really powerful in so many ways, and I don't even think you really realize it. But talking about, overcoming the face to face, the ability to build trust in the environment, to be able to get people confident in what you're doing, the ability to educate, the fact that a lot of groups have not been able to sustain through this time as more even just emerge, much less thrive. So that's really beautiful. Randy, did you have something
Yeah, I
else?
just wanted to tag on what Patricia said. I think the underlying question is for what I said, what you said, and what Patricia has just brought up. Has the model so radically changed that it's not sustainable in the format that the three of us have outlined? Do we need to think about a completely different model? And I'd love to hear. Don's got a thumbs up here, so maybe Don's got some ideas.
Sure. Yeah,
And
go
Dick,
ahead. Go ahead, Don. I'm gonna keep it moving because I do have a formal talk in here that I'll introduce, and it'll be in 2 pieces, as I shared earlier if you weren't on. And so the first part will be kind of maybe bringing ahead to some of this stuff. Second part will be kind of where we're going, and then the third part will take place in part 2, actually, which will be next Friday. So I'm kind of teeing. It's just so you kind of understand the journey we're going. So Don, go ahead.
I just had an aha moment yesterday. We got another group that, wants to or thinks they want to go back to the format that we were doing before the pandemic, in a physical space, face to face, and that's fine. But we've got people that we've attracted over the last few months that don't live near where that physical space is going to be. And so you got to integrate. I was in IT for 20 years. You got to somehow seamlessly, and that's, I think, the operative and the problem word, those environments. And I know, Dave, you tried to, we've done the in person on Wednesdays and tried to bring in other people, but you got them standing in the front of the camera and all that kind of stuff. There's got to be a better way to do that I haven't seen. And these groups need to, they don't want to lose membership, but they're going to, because you got people in one of them that is in Forney and they want to meet in Frisco. Well, that ain't going to happen.
Right. And so that's a good issue that it's the integration, the paradigm. It actually, again, my superpower is connecting the dots, and you don't know what that means. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I'm just going to tell you that what you said connects with what Patricia said in terms of the key is our new environment isn't the old environment, and it's an integrated environment. And the key is that some of the groups haven't been able to sustain in that new environment simply because it's a whole heck of a lot more work. I got to tell you that the work that I have to put in, and I'm not, this isn't about me, but the work that I invest and the leaders and the people in this group put in to keeping this group thriving is a whole lot more than it was prior to the pandemic. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but doing the hybrid meeting on Wednesday, doing weekly mixers on Monday, doing Zoom training, all of those things take effort and time, but they're worth it. And if, as long as they're worth it, it's good. But that's the thing, is a lot of groups lose sight They look more at how they're doing it and not why they're doing it and the impact they want to have. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying that that's fundamental. We'll talk about that a little bit in my talk. So thank you for sharing that. Ricky, did you want to share something?
I did. One of the things that I've learned is that the way that we respond to people and the way that we interact with people has definitely changed. And I stopped and would sort of take into account what is happening around me and how do I respond. And what I realized is that if you send me an email, it might be days before I sift through the emails and find it. But if you text me, I get it immediately and I can respond immediately. So what that sort of reminds me is, am I responding to the people I need? I mean, am I reaching out to the people that I need to reach out to text wise? Because there it is. We have our phones with us and there it is. And then I wanted to touch on what Randy said about, well, is it free? Is it not worth anything? Well, I think people do kind of fall into that category that, well, it must not be valuable because it's free. And one great lesson that I learned was that I was hired to do to take a couple people with me and provide the music at a 75th birthday party of a man that owns a company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And through all of my, creativeness, I forgot to tell him how much. I forgot to tell them that this is how much we charge. So I got there and we were playing, and it just dawned on me I didn't tell them how much. Well, when it was over, the lady that had contacted me, that was her father-in-law, she handed me a check for 3 times what I was going to tell her. And so I learned a valuable lesson that you can undercut and your price, or if it's free, maybe people think it's not worth anything, And so getting paid $500 times 3 people, and I was going to charge them $500 for 3 people. So the check was $1,500. And so I learned a valuable lesson. So then when I started to get more and more into entertaining, I started the conversation off by, what is your budget? What are you thinking about? I never am the first person to throw out a number. And I've learned a really, really important value about how much I'm worth, how much what the service I'm providing is worth. Now I know that we do things for free. We do. And because we want to help people, but we can't do it all for free, because that's when I do think, Randy, people think that it's not of any value at all. So the texting thing versus phone calls and emails and in person, for some reason the world has turned to, and I even have customers who text me thinking that I'm going to answer them right back immediately, because that's the kind of world we live in. So,
okay, Ricky, as often is the case, your story is received, and I understand the message, and it's actually very good. And so, there's a couple of components there that we got to look at, and one is the ineffectiveness of some of the things. The other thing that connecting the dots with Randy and what you're saying is there's a balance between free and between, serving and the value, and making sure the value is understood. There's another component which really connects to what Patricia was saying, which is the whole concept of trust. And how do you get to that trust and people really believing? Because when you're not in a room with people, there's a different equation for building and developing trust. And that's why these informal times, the 11:30 to 12 for our network, are more important. And even some of the conversations that take place, obviously, in the room are more important now than ever, as well as obviously the one-to-one. So Dick Buck, did you have something that you wanted to share? You're going to have to unmute.
Right. Yes, we do research, and so I can confirm everything that all of you are saying in terms of the shift and that things aren't going back to where they were. And I found that my business changed completely in the last year, year and a half, where I used to do consulting and research for companies and charge them money. Well, everything dried up. And so for the past year, I've been consulting with 3 technology companies in exchange for stock in the companies.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any money, they're early stage.
Right.
And, you know, they're vital. They've got good technologies, and so it's an on the come.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually so. So one of the things there is not only getting paid, but how you get paid and being creative. Again, the thing that I love about everything that people are saying, though, is you're still focusing in on value. You're still focusing in on serving your network. You're still trying to find ways to do things that build that trust, that demonstrate your value, that give people confidence. And when I get into the formal presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, and I'm very, very excited. I got to tell you, with every word that's come out of you guys' mouths so far, I get more excited because you're confirming as well as adding to some of the things that I already have sensed, and I'm learning from you guys in the one-to-ones that I'm having, just the interactions that we're experiencing. Anybody else have any kind of questions, observations? This is, for those, again, that joined a little bit later, this is a time where I'm really trying to kind of get out on the table some of the things we're each wrestling with, because I want to, as I go through the formal talk about things and talk about where, not only bring a head to it, but also talk about where we're planning to go, and where we're going doesn't mean that there's not adaptation that will occur over time, and you'll understand what I mean there. Mako, did you have anything? Because you tend to be a wealth of, you've been studying things, you've gone through a lot of challenges, both personally, and you've done some things to pivot in your business, and you're always learning. So I really want to honor your investment by letting you open up the mic if you want to share with us.
Well, would you mind if I defer to somebody else right now? I got somebody that just came in the office.
Oh, okay.
Got to get them taken care of, and
that's fine. But okay, that's totally fine.
I'll be right back.
That's all right. We may move on to it, but if we'll be done. We'll be at the end. You'll have chances to say things. Any other insights, Jason, Patricia? Okay, go ahead, Patricia.
I just wanted to let you guys know that Mako and I have known each other for a long time. And one of the first things that I found that he was so good about, he put out a paper, he says, what we have learned from other businesses that work. And yes, he is constantly learning and seeking to find out information from people, and is very, very good about giving feedback to other people. So he's a good resource also.
Yeah. So that's a great, and again, I think Mako, because he's invested so much in this community and others, we're singing the praises of you, Mako, now that you got your headset back on. But and that's I would tell you that the people that are regularly part of this community, you guys are what, I mean, it's overused sometimes, but you are servant leaders. You guys are leading in your own way, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here. And I want to make sure that I honor your thoughts and your things. So, Mako, did you have any? Are you back with us? Can you want to share anything before I move on?
Well, I got on late, so I'm not sure exactly what the main theme
Well,
was.
the main questions here were okay. So let me repeat. The two questions are: one is, what have you found that's working and working better going forward, and the changes you've made during during what I call the zombie apocalypse, and then what challenges are you seeing moving forward? Either one of those or both. Anything you'd like to share or throw out there? I've already got a list of challenges and questions and stuff from some of the other people here.
Well, I heard the last tail end of what Don had to say, and I'm kind of agreeing with what he had to say as far as going forward, especially with trying to draw into getting new business or maintaining my relationships with people. How, I was really against the hybrids when that first started, because I really valued the face-to-face contact I had with people, before and after our meetings. And now we're come to a crossroads in several of the chambers that I'm involved with, that some are staying hybrid, some are still going Zoom and haven't gone face-to-face. And so I'm fighting that to see whether, from my perspective, whether I'll continue doing Zooming and just attend fully, just the face-to-face ones. Because like all of us, what Zoom has opened up to me or has brought to the front is I didn't realize how much time I spent on the road traveling back and forth to these meetings. It takes me half an hour going there, coming back, and at least another 15, 20 minutes to get settled back into my office. And I know a lot of people that don't want to go back to face-to-face because Zooming is so much easier to do. But then again, I see they lose the value of being able to talk before and after, where a lot of business, I think, gets taken place, and not just, standing up, giving a 30-second commercial, then you're done.
Right.
So that's just one thought that came to mind when I heard Don talk.
Yeah. And I agree, Mako. That is the balance point. That is the challenge that we're experiencing here going forward. It's not just going back to doing things the way we did them before the change, and it's not going forward exclusively with the way we've been doing things during the pandemic, because that's not the way it works. I shared my background predominantly because I did large multi-billion-dollar outsourcing and transformations with companies. And whenever you're changing something of the magnitude that we're talking about, you have to rethink. You have to look at the infrastructure. You have to look at your strategy. And I realize we're not a multi-billion-dollar organization. We're a not-for-profit, hopefully not for loss organization, but we are still looking at things that way. So thank you for sharing that. Before I get into the formal part, we're at 12:12. I want to make sure I get through the content. Any other thoughts, observations? Patricia, you had your mic open. I'll go ahead and let you. Was there something else you wanted to say? No. Okay. Dick, your finger keeps going up. You got something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've found that an awful lot of the people that I know have changed jobs in the past year. The pandemic has affected them. A contractor is now a truck driver. And I think that we all have to recognize the new world of our prospects and to change with them.
Yep. Excellent point. Jason, you had kind of raised your hand. You haven't had a chance to talk.
Sure, yeah. So for me, COVID gave a good opportunity to kind of like have more time to try and spin up my own thing while I'm, having full time with my other contract. But I have still struggled to find the right audience because it's all web based and getting in front of the right people. So it's been good, but it's also been frustrating for me trying to find the right click or kind of get right people. So I've learned a lot, and I've also tried a lot of things, but nothing stuck well.
Well, actually, it's a great point. I'm glad you weighed in there, because that clearly is one of the key. If I were to capsulize not only what we've heard here, but what you just said and what I hear when I have one-to-ones with folks over the last year, you're expressing very similar things. The other thing is, what Dick said is really important. A lot of people have transitioned or are transitioning from one thing to another. A lot of my clients are actually looking for people. I've thrown some of those out to the group that do things. And the question then becomes, are you going to continue to be an independent contractor? Are you going to take a W-2 job? You're going to be whatever. So all of those things are really, really real. And so I appreciate you sharing those things. So I'm trying to see. So we got Marv online. He's not on camera. And Zip online, not on camera. Let me do this. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, Dick brought up a good point, and Jason sort of amplified it. And at least from my perspective, I'm looking and saying, it used to be contacts were key. Contacts are king. And it was who you know. And in fact, I was talking with a good friend of mine, George Zuckerman, who lives in New York City, and he's always, he can rattle off the names of every CEO of every major corporation in Manhattan, and he knows all these people. But I think today, process is as important as contacts. You ultimately need to get in front of the right people. But for all of us, for Ricky Jean, okay, it's his process is his music, how he plays it, what his style is. For Mako, it's the quality and the diversity of the printing media that he develops. So I think, maybe part of the model is how we each help each other take our processes that we have mastered and honed over the years and other people's contacts and merge them together and develop new markets and new solutions. Enough said.
Great. Actually, in the Clubhouse vernacular, which many of you, probably most of you aren't exposed to, I know that Vic is, what you do is when you have that, you just say, I'm done speaking, or something like that. And then you turn the floor back over to somebody else. I'm giving you an experience here, by the way, that will hopefully, if you kind of envision where things are headed, that this is going to be more of what I envision us doing, not just necessarily just on Zoom here or whatever, but just as we go forward. So giving you a little foreshadowing.
Yeah, I want to put a shameless plug, but it really isn't intended to be. But the model that I'm realizing that the model that I'm talking about has a lot in connection with Be Connected. LinkedIn does that, okay? But LinkedIn is so huge and so diverse that, if I go to reach out to Dave Roberts in LinkedIn and he doesn't know me, the chances of getting a response are slim to none. But in Be Connected, for one reason, because they're still small, and for another reason is because some of the key people in Be Connected know us and know Dave Roberts and this organization. And I'm not pushing Be Connected. I'm just saying that model is very timely for what we're trying to do.
Well, you'd be a hero, Randy. Thank you again for the input. And it's not a shameless plug. It's actually very much in line with where we're going. And frankly, anybody out of this is going to really thank you, because when we get done here for free, if it makes sense in your model, there's about a $2,000 value that you'll be able to take advantage of and going forward. So we'll talk about that. Well, let me do this. And again, for those that didn't make it at 11:30 to 12, it's now 12:18, and I want to get into some of the content here. And I want to say that welcome to the Friday Richardson Plano Networkers training. We've had a great interaction with a lot of the networking warriors that we've had. For those of you that are multitasking and plugging in, I appreciate you being here. This is being recorded. In fact, the first 30 minutes was recorded as well, so you can go back and listen to some of the gems from some of the folks that have been sharing up to this point. But I do want to talk about now kind of putting a pin or a head on it as far as what we're doing. I'm going to share my screen here, and I will come back to you. I will bounce out of this screen share, at one point. My intention is to do that, and then I will be back to that. So I'm sorry, I've just got to do something here to make it work. I assume you can see my screen, and so I'm going to do this so that it's a little easier to see. Now I'm also going to bring the grid up on the side here so I can kind of see you, but I will have a break point. So the whole concept that we're talking about is thriving beyond the zombie apocalypse. So what we talked about in a couple of other sessions was lessons and things we learned. We tapped into podcast guests, speakers, people who've helped us through that time. And by the way, we've been very blessed with a lot of people who've chosen to serve our community and share their wisdom in this environment of, hey, I can't speak from stage anymore. How am I going to do this? And it has opened up. That's why we're doing this on Zoom, is because I could do it in the room at Original Pancake House, but a lot of these speakers have come to us from New York and New Jersey, all these other places, from Utah, from, we've had people on the Zoom from Egypt and Kiev, and we have a lot of reasons to do things differently, as some of you have mentioned in the thing. So interestingly enough, I was going through and preparing for this, and many of you may or may not remember, but one of the last presentations I did in the room for Friday was in January of 2020. It was one of the first Fridays of 2020. And it was called Make 2020 the Year You Find Your Dream Audience. Anybody remember that? Randy, I know, does, because Randy was there. I think Ricky was there. Dick was there. And at that point in time, January of 2020, right, I was looking at launching a podcast, considering how we could get our message out and so on and so forth. And guess what happened? 3 episodes into my podcast, the pandemic hit, and we had to pivot to doing the podcast recordings via what? Zoom. Okay, so I just thought it was fascinating to me that as we're talking about the things that have changed, if I went back, some of the points that I made in that presentation, I'm going to make a little bit today, but I have more to offer you today with how do we do that than I did back then. And that's because of a lot of things that have happened since the pandemic or since the zombie apocalypse. I want to remind you, for those who haven't participated before, the apocalypse is what's called a Vuca environment. This is a military term. It's basically volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Things are changing all the time. There's uncertainty about what's going to happen going forward. It's very complex. So you push here and something else pops out. A number of you mentioned situations where you tried this. I think Jason mentioned he tried this and it didn't work. He's tried different things and they aren't working. Ricky has mentioned that a number of times with his music and the challenges that he's had there. And Dick has mentioned that as well. And people have done different things. And that's going to continue. But in a Vuca environment, you need to do a few things. And this is kind of, if I encapsulate the challenges that the warriors brought to the table, either in their trainings or in their podcast, and the things they had to overcome, all of those situations were very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And how do you deal with that? Well, the thing is, one of the questions I had is we were talking through this, is how are you adapting? You guys have hit on most of these points. How are you using Zoom more? The answer is yes. Are you using like Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups? I'd say across the board, not necessarily. That running a group, even our Richardson Plano Facebook group with 300 and some people in it, as well as our meetup group, that takes work. And so part of it is, how do you do that? How do you participate in that? And how does that serve you going forward? And I think you've all hit on some points. How do I integrate? My paradigm is shifting. I don't understand. Email isn't working the way, there's different things. Texting, the more immediate, the accountability issues. There's a lot of things you guys brought up which are brilliant. They're totally brilliant and really, really good points. The main thing that we already know in Richardson Plano Networkers, by the way, and we had coming into the pandemic, is we're not competing. Nobody in this group views, I don't care. We have a number of people in financial services. We have a number of people in marketing. We have people that are in consulting. I don't know that we have a lot of competitive musicians here, Ricky, but we have people that could view other people as competitors. Those kind of people end up going to groups like BNI, and I don't want to pick on, go to a group where they are the only one because they don't want anybody else to have access to that group. We're not that group. We collaborate. So collaboration and how to do that, you guys have hit on the point, has been very, very important to not only continuing our success that we've experienced up to the pandemic, but also even more important going forward, because the collaboration, the getting your message out, the marketing, those all are important going forward if we're gonna not only thrive as a group, but thrive as people in making the impact we want to make. One of the fundamentals, and again, those of you who've participated in the Vision Challenge, you heard that presentation that I gave back in January 2020. It seems like forever ago. But the point is, you got to know yourself. And when I say know yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, a minister, an artist, whatever, you've got to know why you're doing what you're doing. What is the unique reason you're on the planet? You need to know what unique value you provide. And oh, by the way, spoiler alert, each of you, if you hang around me, will realize that you're each unique, even if you do a similar thing to somebody else. And I may refer somebody when we're going, as I'm going forward in my journey, to you versus somebody else, not because I like you better than them or them better than you. It's because I know each of you are unique, and I focus on how to align your uniqueness with a unique need of a client. And that's more and more and more important going forward, because once your audience starts to know your uniqueness, once they start to know why you're doing what you're doing, that's more important. People refer people to Richard. I hear it over and over and over again. People refer people to this group because we're different, because they know that our motive, and it's my motive, but it's your motive as well, is our motive is to serve. Our motive is to understand. Our motive is to help you get your message out and help serve you in any way we can. And that's what the culture of this community is. The other thing is, when you're moving forward, there's a thing called, again, another military thing that kind of goes with the VUCA, is it's called an OODA loop. OODA loop is what a pilot does when he's flying into a war zone. OODA loop is what an officer who's walking into a riot or anything else does. OODA loop is what some people felt they were entering into when they emerged from their home to go get groceries or to go do their job stocking shelves. OODA loop is observe, observe, Observing means not just what's going on outside of you, which is important, but really being effective is also orienting yourself to what you're observing. The most powerful tool I can tell you, and I've told you before, that you can do is be self-observant, self-aware. I can guarantee you when I'm going through other parts of this presentation that there's going to be most of you, if not all of you, will reach a point of saturation. You'll say, okay, this is overwhelming to me. I'm not sure how to connect these dots. I don't know what to go forward. And then what you'll do is you will revert back to your zombie behavior, which is the habits that you did yesterday. And I've always told you that if 95% of what you're going to do today is the same thing you did yesterday. Now, the thoughts, the things you do. And if you revert back to that, you're reverting back to your zombie. You're not thinking, you're not observing what you're doing, and then you're not making a decision. The key is if you make the same decisions that you made yesterday, in other words, I'm going only to, heard Mako mention, and I'm not picking on you, okay, I'm only going to go back to in-person meetings. That may be the right decision. But you have to decide, and you have to own the outcome of your decision, right? And what that means is if you have the old saying, if you have 3 frogs in a pond and they're all on lily pads and one decides to jump off, how many frogs are on lily pads? The answer is 3. Because just deciding to drop off doesn't make you jump off. You've still got 3 frogs on lily pads, you understand? So the point is, we need to make decisions, but then to successfully navigate this VUCA environment that we are in, it ain't going away, guys. It's here to stay. And it was here before. It was just a different VUCA environment because technology's changing, geopolitics are changing, genetics are changing, genomics are, everything's changing. We can't escape that. And it really, progress requires change. And the key is, you guys, several of you mentioned this, and again, we need to go forward with our businesses, with our network, with everything else, is focusing on trust. And that's a thing that you've all, in various ways mentioned as we were leading into this. The key is, though, what does that mean? What does that mean, and how do we build trust in this new environment when we can't see people face to face, when we can't show them our jewelry, when they can't make it to a meeting and have a one-to-one, because that becomes very hard to sustain, right? Mako and a couple of you mentioned the time investment that a lot of people are making. I am pinging into other groups to see how they're doing, and plus I'm getting people asking me, how are we doing what we're doing, how are we growing, how are we changing? And so, whether it's chambers or whatever, I'm open to speaking to them, to share with them, and I ping into their meetings. Rick Rawson has a meeting, and other people, other groups, and to help them figure that out. So again, focusing in on trust. Now, here's the thing, and this wasn't a big long-term plan or anything, but we started this Friday session, and I started calling it Stay Connected to Thrive. And part of it was when we started these Friday sessions on Zoom, we weren't connected physically, right? We weren't in the same room, but we all were trying to thrive and make it through the zombie apocalypse. And so we've continued that theme. And so with that theme, we've continued to look at, as leaders, as people in the organization, we've looked at how can we...
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, my watch is talking to me. She's trying to understand what I'm saying. I accidentally raised my watch to see what time it was. Okay, so anyway, so that's the tee up. Now I am going to stop the share for a second, and I will come back. And I want to ask you if anything I've said up to this point, or anything that you've experienced, and I don't need another story or a reiteration, but is there anything here that you find incomplete? Let's put it that way. If you do, just open up your mic. Otherwise, I'll go back to the talk.
What did OODA stand for again, please?
OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act.
Thank you.
So
I know
yeah.
you've told us that before.
Yeah, and that's fine. And again, I love it. I actually love that question, Randy, for one reason. Is I and you know this because you and I have talked about it, is about the same time frame I did did the talk in 2020, I made a decision that I said, I am going to not ever say again, I'm terrible at names. I'm running network groups, I'm in ministry, I'm doing a lot of stuff. A lot of people know me, and I'm not going to use the fact that it's difficult for me to remember people's names. So I've been intentionally working at it. So if you don't remember something or something you need clarification on, and Randy's an expert at this, by the way, is asking questions. Ask the question again, even if you know in your brain that you heard the answer before, but you forgot it. It's the same thing with people's names. I will ask people sometimes 2 or 3 times in a conversation, okay, it left me, what's your name again? It left me. That, to me, originally was diminishing my ego, and I was letting that stop me from really getting a very important thing done, which is learning your names. Now, that's just an aside, but that's free. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the talk because I want to make sure I get through this. And as I said before, the talk will to be continued, and we'll get into some of the how and the questions that will come from you out of the rest of this. And I'm going to go through it. So I'm warning you now, I'm going to go through things pretty quickly because I'm going to try to fast forward you from a year, about last March, I think it was, till today on a couple of on a technology, and share with you some of the things that I've learned and we're adopting. First of all, when you talk about reaching your audience, you need to be, and you'll see the Be Connected here. So I've co-opted, sorry, I accidentally hit the button. The key is that if you want, whether you're Randy, whether you're Don, whether you're Dick, whether you're Ricky, whether you're Patricia, if you really want to get to the next level with regard to that especially in this environment, we need to come, I view Patricia, for example, in this group as the gemologist, the expert. If I have an issue with things, she's already established that credibility with me. The question is, how does she establish that going forward with a whole lot of other people, where people are she's not having to go out and chase people or even attend a lot of meetings. People will begin to know who Patricia is. The other thing is the authority. Okay, so again, there's a thing called social proof. There's things that you do. A lot of that doesn't come from you. I can't tell you how good I am. I can put it in an ad, I can make a teaser video, I can do this, I can do that. The reality of it is you don't care. There's too much of that noise out there. You can create a great video and somebody will try and sell you a program to help you create a video, and you can put it out there on Facebook or LinkedIn or blah, 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 whatever. And you know what? It's like advertising. It's like watching commercials. People fast forward through those commercials. But you need to establish your authority. You need to position once you decide why you're doing what you're doing, the unique value you provide, and where you're going is how does that manifest itself in a brand? Somebody that's in marketing and everything. How do you increase your credibility in an environment like Patricia was talking about, where you can't see somebody face to face? How do you authority is kind of redundant. How do you establish a leadership role? Part of everybody that spoke up in this initial session that I recorded, that was a leadership thing. You took the risk, you stepped up, you admitted some things you learned, and you admitted some challenges that you had. That's leadership. That's knowing and being confident that you are working through things. You want to be an influencer. It's not just the person, it's not just me, it's not just Randy, it's not just anybody on this thing. You want to influence your audience, your clients, the people that come into your sphere of influence, if you will, to do things that will be beneficial to them. Because I know everybody on this Zoom is really focused on the people they serve. They're focused on serving me if they can. And I'm the same way. Plus it's fun. Plus, I invest a lot of time, but don't feel sorry for me because I love doing this. I have a lot of fun working with people and seeing them, go on the journey and seeing things and having a successful meeting, those kinds of things. And then the other thing is, which maybe some of us have challenges with, is, monetizing or earning money doing what you love, whether it's, assessing jewelry, whether it's playing music, whether it's, whatever, branding, messaging, helping people grow, whatever it might. And then how do we expand going forward beyond RP networkers or whatever groups we're in? The reality of it is, I know that a lot of you on this call, because I've seen you in other groups, are expending a lot of time to try and expand your reach, and you're just giving about this much energy across a whole wide thing. That's called a shotgun approach. And I'm going to tell you, that's a bad strategy for building your community, because the depth is where it really comes, the depth of your relationships. And you know that. I'm kind of preaching to the converted here, but maybe somebody that's not in this group or not well in this group will watch this video. So I wanted some of you, like Randy, Zip, Ricky, a number of you have been around Be Connected for a while. You've heard me talking about it. It's kind of like, oh yeah, Be Connected again, whatever. The reality of it is, Be Connected is still, if the center graphic there is the market adoption curve or the technology adoption curve or whatever. I learned this when I was at business school. And the reality of it is, when it comes to Be Connected and Clubhouse and Alignable and other things that are out there, and there's a whole list, and there's more coming every day, is we are at the early innovator stage. We're not even early adopter stage. Okay, there's maybe approaching 10,000 people. Probably we need to get to we'll get to about 9 million before we're like everybody's getting on the platform. So that presents both challenge and opportunity. And that's why I'm going to say, when I started with and got involved with Be Connected as what's called an affiliate, it was $2.99 and $2.99 a month. And I said, okay, but you could waive the $2.99 a month if you referred 2 people. I referred many people now, and so that's not even an issue. We went from just doing connections, and what I'm going to talk to you about is live connections, doing this, but doing this on scale. And again, if you don't have a perspective of what that translates into, all I can tell you is I can show you it in action. And I will be showing it to you in action after the 12th of June, because I'm beta testing these live connections, these things for the next, starting on Monday. We went from just having about $5,000 worth of training, and training meaning how do you take your business online, or how do you do things. We've had speakers come through, and I've shared this with you before, that have programs, and they're focused on marketing, using LinkedIn, Facebook, building an online store, you name it, all kinds of things, how to put it all together, doing videos, all that stuff. Within Be Connected, if you do the Be Pro, all of that is in the back office, and you can do it on demand at your leisure, and now can do it because originally it was just on the computer. Once we did have an app, because we went from no app to now, or we now have an app for the iPhone, app for the Android, and you can actually get do the training videos on your phone if you're subscribed to that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And by the way, my only purpose here is not going to be to get you to pay anything today. I really want you to understand, and I'm going to give you value for this. So what we're doing in Be Connected and what we're doing in Richardson Plano Networkers, you see RPN, Be Connected, My Vision Warrior, or Warrior versus Zombie, the things that I'm working on, as well as is getting my whole community, which includes not only my in-person networks, but people that I'm connected to, and funneling them into what we call a Be United free membership to start with, so that they can then be part of my group, my community. I'll be able to share not only my messages, but we'll be able to share our group messages, people within the group, because I don't know everything about everything. And so we're going to be talking about people who can talk about various sundry of things. And the link that's on this slide, I will put in the chat. Remind me before we're done when we get to the end, but it's called BK Vision Warrior /RPN group. And I'm going to say it again at the end, but I need, if you are part of Be Connected already, there's some action items that you need to make sure you've taken care of, because there's some changes that are occurring on the 12th of June. And that's part of why I have a sense of urgency for this Friday and next Friday, to make sure I've done the best I can to educate our community on this. But I'm going to be using this new infrastructure not only to target you, but promoting, and not just, you can use it to promote your business, to educate. Patricia, mentioned that. A number of you mentioned you want people to learn things, want to serve them. Obviously, sell stuff. Make people aware that, whether it's Zip with his CBG, or whoever that has a product or a service, make people aware. And then you, if you choose to, and I've already got a couple of groups that I've established. One of them is this RPN group, which is really kind of going to replace, once it becomes a show, I'm maybe migrating this Friday Stay Connected and Thrive to that group. So just to give you a heads up, but that'll be a little ways down the road, but we're going to continue to do this. I won't, leave you hanging, but just trust me. So then when you look at Be Connected, there's multiple levels. There's once you get past the free, there's a $99, which we get a 25% discount. There's a $299 that we get a 25% discount. And then there's the ability to do groups that has been added. This is it's different than Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or whatever, but it's more like Clubhouse on steroids. But if you don't know Clubhouse, it's hard to understand. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. And then people basically getting people in your own community, not only RPN, but when we start setting up groups for members to help you build your community of interest and do that. So the categories of groups that exist right now in the current rollout is, and virtually everybody here can fit into these categories: entrepreneurship, business development. So if your business is some product or service or whatever, money, accounting, finance. We have a few of those folks and things. Leadership, management, Randy, myself, others may fall into that, Dick. Personal growth and development, that could be spirituality as well. People that are like Vic and whatever that are in that area. Nonprofits, maybe I've already got a church, Vic's ministry, a number of associations. There's a whole nother area where you can have groups just sharing that, speaking, how to use social media, marketing. A lot of you folks, a lot of people could benefit or want to be part of those. Coaching and mentoring, entertainment, wine, spirits. Entertainment, Ricky, that would be where music and the stuff that you would fall into, and groups along those lines. Technology, Jason, that would be kind of the area. But that also, if underneath that umbrella is like Bitcoin, those kinds of things could be in finance, but you could also put it under technology, relationships, joint ventures, networking, a lot of RPN and other associations, chambers, those kinds of things could have groups that are really serving their specific or growing their specific community, health, fitness, nutrition, Homa, I don't think she's here, but beauty and fashion. Really, Patricia, you might fall into that. I don't know. That would be, creating a group, community of interest that would be, again, as an offshoot or expansion of that. So really, I'm not going to get into the training. If anybody that's interested in how do you build a group or how a group can serve you, there's a video that Tracy Repchuk, who's a friend of mine, she's actually been a guest on my podcast from In Be Connected. She's an EVP of marketing. She shares kind of how to, some of the nuances here, and I'm not going to go through all this. These are just a few sides, but you create, you connect, you create your group, you connect with people and add people to your group, and then you begin to promote it. And then what's happening is on the 12th, there's a whole new concept of being able to do audio, video shows, if you will, where you can begin to engage your group and do something similar to what we're doing here on Zoom. Okay, so we have RPN. The real opportunity here is you could start a group, or we can start a group, and you can begin to be the first to invite, your other people that you're already connected to, whether it's in this group or another group or on social media, begin to move some of your friends in there. And really right now, because of the stage we're at with Be Connected, and really I think RPN, a lot of people in Be Connected have connected with me and say, wow, you guys really have a great philosophy. Everybody I've talked to, like Randy and other people that I've engaged with in RPN, really get it as far as building relationships and stuff like that. So even some of that Be Connected community, which is a very, very high-powered community. If you're having trouble in RPN trying to find people who can spend the money to buy your services, or that can find the margin in their life to do that, you want to be plugged into this group. You want to be one of the, and begin to see that. And I think it'll become even more apparent once this group function. And again, it's all done on your phone. So it's a beautiful thing. So the other part, and I know when I start putting numbers up here, people get nervous. So one of the things we're looking at on the 12th is what they're calling Go Live in the Hive, which basically there'll be some featured shows, and people will, when they go in to Be Connected or whatever, they'll see today's live meetings, and they'll be, and the key is you set up a specific time that you're getting together, and then that way it's, so it could be today's Live in the Hive is going to be Ricky Jean Wright and all of the people talking about music, and then all of a sudden he's inviting his community and the musicians. Or it could be Patricia Ann Cole talking about jewelry and other types of things. It might be Dick talking about, marketing and or facilitating conversation, just like we just did in the beginning of this meeting, where I said, hey, what do you think? How about this? What do you run into? Because I always learn more probably not from me, presenting when I'm presenting, or I learn a lot from the people in the room, right? And that's the beauty of the group concept when you do it live, like we're talking about. The thing is, the Be United membership is free. So everybody should take advantage. The price of getting the Be United membership is that you need to put together your profile. If you've got a profile on LinkedIn, if you have done your 30-second speech and you know what you can talk about in your business, at least build that profile and the kinds of things you're looking at, and put that, get that started. That's the only cost really in doing it. The benefit by doing it right now, I just did a meeting for Dick or for Jeff Klein, and he has a paid Zoom, minimum paid, the $15 a month. He doesn't have any of the features. He can't record to the cloud. He can't. This meeting is transcribed. I even get input back saying, here's how to engage Randy more. Here's how to engage Ricky more. Here's how to, anybody that talked in there, it gives me insights. That's all part of the function. Plus you can do up to 500 people on a Zoom like this or on a webinar, and you can stream it to, so that's included. You can transition if you have a paid Zoom account, or if you've considered a paid Zoom account. being part of, once you have that free membership, you have to have the free membership because it's limited to members, but it can be a free member. You can get that. This is a limited time promotion, but it's good now. So you can get that, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So I feel really good about offering that to our community. This is what'll happen when I'll post a link. It'll say join RPN Networkers group today, and you'll see here it says what you get: access to the connections. You get 10 connections for free, personal statistics on how you're connecting, up to 10 connections. I already said that. Invitations to groups and chats and live shows. If you're a free member, you can you can be in the audience of any group on Be Connected. Just like on Clubhouse, and again, if you don't have Clubhouse, don't worry. You'll begin to learn what that's like. You can be part of the audience. You may not be able to get up to the stage and say, unless you run a group or you're a paid member, but still, you can be part of the community. You can begin to do it. You can invite other people for free. The other thing I want to leave you with is everybody on this Zoom, have a head start if you haven't already joined it, or even if you have, because everybody you invite within RPN, and I'm not going to go out, this link is going to be posted, but if you share once you got your free membership, if you invite people in the group and they sign up for a free membership, they're essentially your referral. Not going to get into, not everybody's here to make money or anything, but they're your referral. They can get you for two people that you refer that pay, you can get free. We benefit. RP Networkers benefits from everybody that signs up for a paid membership because we are an association. Same way Vic on here with his Unity Marriage Ministry, when somebody joins up and pays under his umbrella, they will get a little bit of money. So it helps fund his ministry. And so that's what we're about. My goal really is to get to where we don't have even the $2 a week, but through, the funding that we get through people, through the growth of our community and through Be Connected, is to where, it's actually kind of a given that we have what we need. We are not for profit and not for loss as a chief. So that's the bottom line for that. I'm going to stop my share. We are at 5 minutes to the top of the hour. I've already told you the major announcements here. I'm going to segue to that real quickly, and then I'll come back to any questions. And I'll leave it open for a bit so you can download. Plus, I need to post a few links in the chat. But what I would like is for y'all to really take this seriously and realize that this is a way that you can support the group, and the group will be able to better support you. I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a northbound train talk here. We used to call back at EDS from Ross Perot, is that the train has left the station. Okay. I've been doing the diligence. We've been working with Be Connected. I've been telling them what we need, what we want. The evolution has been very profound and clear, and we have apps, we have everything. We have so many more tools that we can use to serve you and serve our community and grow our community now that we didn't have before. And it's just going to get better. I'm totally convinced of that. I'm all in with trying to use this tool to build the audience.